Hey folks, welcome to episode 0 of my first series with Kerbal Space Program 2. The game is out in early access, and it's got a lot of issues, and it's incomplete. This is like pre-beta, early beta kind of functionality right now. I posted a longer 40-minute video with all of my initial first impression thoughts for my first couple of hours in, showing off a lot of the bugs and annoyances I ran into and everything. And I also talked about what some of my hopes are for the future. But for this series, even though the game is in a sandbox mode, I'm going to play through sort of like a normal progression. I'm going to start off small, put a satellite, into orbit, do some stuff right around Kerbin, progress to the moon, mid-miss, go out to the planets, and I'm going to try and get to all of the planets and check out the new surface visuals and maybe hunt for some Easter eggs and anomalies and stuff. It's kind of open at... Oh, and of course I want to try out all the new parts, like those new nuclear engines and everything. So... there's going to be bugs. I'm just going to kind of roll with it. That's half the fun of Kerbal Space Program, is things randomly exploding and missions failing at the last minute and all that good stuff. So you're going to get lots of that. My system, if you're curious about the performance, and for this series I'm going to leave the FPS counter going in the upper left. My system is a Threadripper 3960X with 64 gigs of RAM, an RTX 3070, and KSP2 is installed on an NVMe drive. So this is it's not a crappy system, although, the CPU isn't necessarily the fastest for single-threaded gaming, and the GPU is technically a generation behind now. And I have checked, by the way, KSP2 is only utilizing 4 of my cores, so I'm not really happy about the lack of multi-threaded optimization. But that being said, let's dive in and get started with a new career in Kerbal Space Program 2. Okay, so we're going to start a new campaign here. And the last thing I want to mention before I dive in is that if, and I'm expecting this will happen, if there are updates to the game while the series is ongoing, I'll try to incorporate those updates. Like if we get some new parts or some new bug fixes, I'll try and evaluate and test those as this series goes on. Alright, so we've got our difficulty. Unbreakable Joints is tempting, because we don't have auto strut right now. But I am going to leave it off just for brevity's sake. I'm just going to stick to normal difficulty. Our campaign name is just going to be Tim's Variety. Our space agency will stay Kerbal Space Agency. Our flag, what do we got? I'm kind of bummed that you can't import flag art yet. So I'm just going to end up, I guess, going with the default one. And I want to mention one minor annoyance as I'm setting my colors here. Can I... There we go. I took a look at the flat files that are stored on the drive. Oh, we're going to turn off the tutorials. And it looks like all of the data files for Kerbal Space Program 2 are stored in binary form. They're not flat files like Kerbal Space Program 1 is, which is going to make modding a lot more stupid. But that's a topic for another day. Alright, so we have jumped into Kerbal Space Program 2. We're in our Kerbal Space Center. Look at that. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, the other thing I should probably show you, just for a little reference, is I'm going to show you my settings. I am running at 2560 by 1440. Wow, this is a little glitchy. Yeah, this is one of the things I showed off in my first impressions video. Look at this. It thinks I'm running both of these at the same time. I'm actually running on straight medium all the way down. And we'll do 4x anti-aliasing and hope that doesn't... Yeah, see, look at that. I hit apply and it reset. This is pre-beta. But anyway. So we're gonna dive in. Resume game. And let's get into the vehicle assembly building and get started. Alright, what we're going to get started off with is just a basic orbital satellite. So we're going to start off with one of these octo cores, which should be relatively simplistic. And we're just going to see if we can design a really basic satellite to get this guy into orbit and keep it in communication with our space center. Ooh, that starts horizontal. That's interesting. Okay, now let's get some solar panels going. You know what? Let's try these out. Those look like they might be interesting. All right, not bad. And I can't... Okay, there we go. Still going to probably have some minor foibles with the UI. And that's okay. It's expected. And while we're at it, we'll throw a couple of these. Oh, yeah, we want to lock those. We'll throw a couple of these on there just for good measure. And we'll also do... Let's see what we have for... Yes. Boop. There we go. There's a good little satellite. Now we're going to have to get a booster. Yeah, this is something I mentioned in my first impressions video. I'm going to want to keep the staging and ignition separate. The decouplers and the ignition as separate stages. That might get weird later on with some larger rockets, but oh well. And for good measure, I'm going to put 2 decouplers in this stage because I had problems with engines sticking. And let's look for, yeah, payloads. That's what we're going for. All right, so we're going to want to put a payload fairing on there, and we'll get some struts. Because there are no auto struts in Kerbal Space Program 2, at least not yet. All right, so we need to get a simple orbital booster going. That could be really basic, or it could get a little bit more involved. I'm going to hope that it goes basic. I'm going to go with a really simple design here, just to sort of validate this. I almost went and linked them together. I got to stop doing that. Got to stop doing that. All right, so again, I'm gonna be going for like a keep it simple, stupid sort of an approach here with these early designs. Let's get some control surfaces. Those are big, so we're gonna want to edit these down. Make them quite a bit small. There we go. That's much better. Let's see if we can... Oh, that's neat. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like the look of those. And oh. Oh, come on. Really, is it? Oh. Just a little glitch. Okay. It looked for a moment like it wasn't going to preserve those procedural settings across the symmetry, but it worked itself out. One of the things in this series is we are absolutely going to be discovering all kinds of new fun and exciting bugs. Because, you know, that's something we do now. Get up there. There we go. All right, now we're going to throw some solid boosters on here, because why not? Boop. And we're going to get some aerodynamic nose cones and some separatrons. I'm a big fan of using separatrons on something like this. It's not always strictly necessary, but I find it more often than not really helps. All right, and these are going to go into the stage separation stage. do not need this stage, do not need that stage, or this stage. However, I do need some struts. And you know what? Did I? Yeah, there we go. Because again, auto strut is not a thing, at least not yet, in Kerbal Space Program 2. So we're going to have to be doing an enormous amount of manual struts on all of our vehicles. And I don't know how my camera center got changed. Yeah, the camera controls in the VAB are going to be a little bit of a constant sore spot, but that's fine. Alright, we'll get some launch clamps going. Maybe? There we go. And we got to get our rocket. We'll get that a little bit closer down towards the ground. Oh. There we go. Trying to get it a little bit closer towards the ground. Alright, now we're going to go in and we're going to build our fairing. That will do. Okay, and we are going to call this Orbisat 1. And we are going to save workspace. Yeah, that interface is kind of dumb. I'm not a fan of that whole workspace vessel concept of making them separate. I far prefer the old style of just vehicle and subassembly. But anyway, all right, so are we forgetting anything? We have communications, power, we are forgetting control groups. Action Group Manager. Custom 1 is going to be all of these extending. And our communication dish extending. And we'll save that again. Alright, here we are, ready to go with our first orbital satellite. Exciting. Up we go. Oh, the visuals are absolutely beautiful. Now, one thing I do like is that without needing any mods or anything, we should have, like, apoapsis and stuff displayed here right on the bottom left of the user interface without needing, like, Kerbal Engineer or any of that kind of stuff. So that is definitely a bonus. Alright, and we are accelerating really good. I can conserve some fuel and let the solid boosters do most of the work here early on. Look at that. We got a lot of altitude off those. Not bad, not bad. We are up above the Kerman line on stage 1. Or stage 0.5, depending on how you want to define that. Whoop. 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 There we go. Alright, so I'm going to want to get my apoapsis for this early satellite right up to around 200,000 meters. One user interface convention I'm finding myself a little annoyed with is that it doesn't show your altitude for your apoapsis on the map display. That is suboptimal. Alright, but right now we are high enough. I am actually going to jettison the fairing. and get rid of this parts manager. We're going to deploy our comms and our solar. Excellent. All right, let's get a little bit closer up to our apoapsis. Time warp to point. And I'm noticing we still have the map icon of a crew pod. I guess they don't have the separate icons implemented for the different vessel types. That's fine. It's just something to know about. Let's get a good stable orbit going. All right, we are up in space. So let's I'm going to boost my apps to about 500,000. And this booster, oh actually, yeah, this booster actually turned out to have quite a bit of surplus delta V. So I'm pretty happy about that. I could probably even use this to get a satellite, like, pretty easily out in orbit of the moon or Minmus. Maybe even farther, I don't know. But for right now, we're just going to start off nice and small. Okay. And the reaction wheels are not providing a lot of torque. That'll be some incentive to include some of the dedicated reaction wheel parts. But we have successfully launched our first orbital satellite here in Kerbal Space Program 2. So let's get ourselves to the Kerbal Space Center and then back into the vehicle assembly building. What I'm hoping for here is that by going to the Kerbal Space Center first and then back into the VAB, we may get lucky and avoid some of those problems with the controls being stuck out controlling that vehicle rather than here inside the VAB. Now, what I want to do, let's load that up. Oh. What I want to do is I want to use this same booster with a manned crew capsule. Unfortunately, this whole like workspace paradigm that they've got going doesn't really allow me to save this as a sub-assembly very easily. So I'm going to have to sort of do it like this and like load back into this workspace, preserve the rocket, and just build something new. But now my camera isn't focused. All right, there we go. All right, middle mouse button, in case you're curious, middle mouse button focused my camera. That is useful information, I think. All right, so let's go ahead and get our little crew capsule going. And we're gonna build this with an eye toward the future. Radial, no, not a radial drogue chute, radial regular parachute. There we go. It's a little bit larger than I kind of want, but that's fine. Actually, you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to stick a little battery up there. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be very similar to some of the craft that I tend to use in Kerbal Space Program 1 for like early orbital spacecraft. And I'm going to finish building the rest of this here. I will speed through this. It's going to be nothing really particularly noteworthy, at least not yet. Okay, so this hopefully is our first orbital craft, but we're going to have to go through and we're going to check our staging. So first stage, we have the launch clamp, the main engine, the 4 solid boosters. Stage 2 is separation. Stage 3, separation. Stage... Oh, okay, there's an issue right there. We got to insert another stage. There we go. Stage 4 is ignition, separation, ignition, separation, parachutes. Not bad. And we will call this Periton 1. And we'll save that. Now, who gets to go first? That is the important question. I'm not so sure that Bill needs to be the first person in space. We'll go with Tim C. He's the new persistent Kerbal, named after one of the staffers. And also because, of course, this is Tim's variety. Alright, our camera did not screw up. That is a good sign. Everything looks ready to go. Oh, you know what? I don't need full throttle. Don't need even close to full throttle. And here we go. Excellent. And of course, our frame rate is really suffering. Look at that, not even hitting 20 FPS. Highly optimized for multi-threaded systems. Oh no, I was dumb. It pivoted me backwards. Whoops. That's my own fault. I rotated the crew pod to face the camera and the VAB, not realizing that it was going to change the orientation on launch. That was my own screw-up. But it's fine, we corrected it. That's what we do in Kerbal Space Program. Got some, like, fundamental structural problem with one of your designs. Just fix it mid-flight, no big deal. Alright, stage separation, or booster separation, and we'll kick our main engine. We are still slowly gaining speed. Good, we've maintained our positive thrust-to-weight ratio. That was kind of my hope, is that first stage we were going to burn enough fuel so that this would stay positive thrust to weight. Want to get our apoapsis up to about 100,000, then we're going to turn sideways to finish out our gravity turn. And let's see if I can... Perfect. Okay. Yeah, this little booster's, it's working out pretty well. And, you know, this goes to show how even a relatively simple rocket design can provide a relatively good amount of delta V. You know, you don't need some big, huge, fancy booster just to get yourself into orbit. Or even, frankly, going to the moon. You know, unless you're bringing, like, a full lander or something like that. I mean, this probably has enough delta V to do a lunar flyby. I'm sorry, a mooner flyby. My bad, my bad. And for this first crewed orbital flight, our capsule is definitely going to be a lot heavier than our little Orbisat. So we're not going to have as much delta V out of these stages. And I'm going to kind of let this burn out just to see how far it gets us. Alright, that's not bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate, ignite. Alright, good. Get up a little bit closer to our apoapsis. And then we're going to burn again. Just to kind of see where it gets us. Alright, now we are punching it. And our vehicle, on this engine, you know, this has a much lower thrust-to-weight ratio than that first stage. And that's totally expected. That's totally fine. Look at the fuel burn. It's also a lot more efficient. So we're doing just fine. Yeah, see, look at that. We got tons of Delta V. You know what? I just want to see... I want to see how far we can get if we punch it. Whoa. Huh. Yeah, we could easily get a flyby to the moon out of this design. I'm not going to do it on this flight, though. I have something more substantial in mind for all that. For right now, I'm just going to bring my apoapsis back down so I can do a gentle re-entry, even though re-entry heating and physics are not yet modeled. We're still going to do it right. Build good habits early on. If you are new to Kerbal Space Program and you just picked up KSP2 Early Access, that is going to be one of my biggest pieces of advice for you. Is, you know, even though the game is not going to penalize you yet for doing some of these things wrong, get yourself into some good habits early on. You'll be thankful for it later. Alright, so now I'm going to do my deorbit burn, and I want to reduce my apoapsis, my periapsis, down to around 30,000 meters. In KSP1, 30,000 meters was always my personal, like, sweet spot for a re-entry angle. In KSP2, it is still to be determined how the, you know, atmospheric heating and entry and everything is going to sort of balance against itself. But I'm going to get into the habit of still using that 30,000 meters as my re-entry target. Until and unless I'm shown something better here. Alright, so we're going to detach. And we've got parachutes armed and ready to go. And I'm going to orient... Whoa. I'm going to orient and turn the SAS off. And the reason there is that the stability assist system is going to consume a small amount... Oh, I clicked on it by accident. It's got a small amount of... it's going to consume a small amount of electricity. And as you can see up here, I only have a finite amount of that, and I don't want to use it. I don't want to run out like halfway through re-entry and start flipping and tumbling or some nonsense like that. But it is also one of the reasons I took that extra battery. You will find that throughout this series, a lot of the designs I make in Kerbal Space Program are frequently a little overbuilt and a little oversafe with like electricity and monopropellant for the reaction control system. And it's one of those things that I've always felt it's just better to be over-prepared with. And this mountain range, you know, the geography on Kerbin seems to be roughly the same as in KSP1, and this particular mountain range on this little peninsula and outcropping, I have done more re-entries over this one particular little strip of Kerbin than like anywhere else on the planet. I swear, I've seen that little mountain range so many times. Although the exact geography and topology of the mountain ranges on Kerbin is a little bit different. Even if like the overall coastlines and everything and the maximum extents of the mountain ranges are all the same. Alright, so I'm going to want to make sure, alright, we've got altitude above the ground, not sea level. I'm going to wait till I get around 2,000 meters. Then I'm going to pop my chutes. We're getting pretty close. Chutes are out. Ooh, look at that, they're all floppy. Oh, that is way better than Kerbal Space Program 1. Even though they're kind of tangled into each other, and I hope the game doesn't care about that. Okay. All right, and we have dramatically reduced our descent speed, which is what we wanted, and that's good. Unfortunately, it looks like we're coming down on kind of a slope. That may or may not end up mattering, but we'll find out in a second. I'm also, I'm thinking about it here. This is, even though I did play this for a little while yesterday, and, I produced that video with my first thoughts, this is going to be my first time recovering a vessel on Kerbin after landing from orbit. So I'm interested to see what the user interface for that looks like. Okay, and we're going to be all roly-poly, so what I'm going to do to avoid any potential damage... Oh, look at that. The parachute section actually, its doors opened like shutters. That is useful information. I like that, and that's good to know. But anyway, so I used my stability assist to stop rolling around like that, hopeful that I can recover. And how do we do that? Recover vessel. There we go. Confirm recovery. Okay. We've got a mission timeline. Jeb is proud of us. I wonder what we get if it's Jeb in there. We've got some interesting stats. Highest G-force experienced, 281 Gs? What? That can't be right. I killed Tim C. Kermit. For sure. That can't be right. Ground distance covered, 18 meters. Maybe that means the distance I was rolling around there? Highest orbital speed, that's possibly correct. Speed over land, that's definitely wrong, unless it means rolling around. Yeah, okay, that probably means rolling around. Highest altitude seems correct. Mission time... yeah, that might be correct, because I did a lot of fast forwarding. Total distance traveled, 232 kilometers. That, I don't know, that seems maybe a little low. I'm not sure how it's calculating that. But this highest G-force, that has to be wrong. But in any case, I'm going to call that... Return to Kerbal Space Center. A successful episode 0. So this is what you can expect to see out of the rest of the series. I'm going to play more missions, just going out and doing progressively further and further exploration of the Kerbal solar system. Going to try and land on all the celestial bodies, return from most of them. Eve, probably just going to do a probe for now. And generally see what's out there. Maybe find some surprises. Make sure to check out episode 1, where we actually get started for real instead of just messing around. As always, thanks for watching.